In a preface to the points I'm about to make, I want to be clear about one thing. I'm in full support of each of the measures passed in the One Big Beautiful Bill. In fact, I believe that some provisions didn't go far enough when it comes to the sovereignty of citizenship and the outrageous amount of taxes that are forced upon the American people. To the latter point, I believe we are at a time in American history where we have returned to the beginning in terms of taxation. Abolishing the income tax and replacing it with a carefully constrained consumption tax eliminates political corruption and taxes people according to their means better than any progressive income tax ever could. But that's a subject for another day. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, signed into law by President Trump on July 4, 2025, was touted as a triumph for American workers, families, and seniors. Packed with tax relief measures and innovative programs, it promised to alleviate financial burdens and champion domestic priorities. Yet, beneath the fanfare lies a treacherous flaw. Many of its most critical provisions are set to expire, conveniently timed around the end of Trump's second term in 2028 or shortly after. This is no oversight, but a deliberate act by Congress, specifically obstructionist Democrats, who blocked permanent implementation, betraying the American public for perceived political leverage. By allowing these provisions to lapse, Congress ensures the return of higher taxes and lost benefits, treating Americans as pawns in a shameless political game. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act includes several taxpayer-friendly measures, but their temporary nature undercuts their value. The tax deduction for tips and overtime pay provides relief for tipped workers, up to $25,000 in qualified tips, and hourly workers earning overtime, up to $12,500, targeting individuals or joint filers with incomes below $150,000 or $300,000 respectively. This support for service and blue-collar workers is set to expire at the end of 2028. Likewise, the increased state and local tax deduction, which raises the cap from $10,000 to $40,000 for taxpayers earning up to $500,000, aids residents of high-tax states like New York, Illinois, and California, but reverts to its restrictive limit in 2030. The deduction for auto loan interest on vehicles assembled in the United States, aligned with Trump's Made in America agenda, also expires in 2028, as does the increased standard deduction, $750 for individuals, $1,500 for married couples, and $1,125 for heads of households, which offers temporary relief to the 90% of taxpayers who rely on it. The Trump Accounts program, providing a $1,000 government-funded deposit for newborns, with tax-deferred contributions up to $5,000 annually for education, job training, or home purchases, is limited to children born in the 4-year period of 2025 to 2028, ending abruptly in 2028. But perhaps the most egregious is the expiration of the additional standard deduction for seniors. $6,000 for those aged 65 and over with incomes not exceeding $75,000 for a single person or $150,000 for couples, designed to offset taxes on Social Security benefits. This lifeline for retirees, already strained by fixed incomes, is set to expire in 2028. Worse still, Congress failed to eliminate taxes on Social Security benefits entirely, a proposal rejected due to Democrat resistance citing budget reconciliation rules, leaving seniors vulnerable to a soon-to-come punishing tax burden. So why are these provisions temporary? The answer lies in Congress's abstract refusal, led explicitly by Democrats, to make them permanent. Their obstructionism reflects a calculated strategy to undermine the One Big Beautiful Bill Act's long-term impact, prioritizing partisan posturing over the needs of the American people. By imposing expiration dates, Democrats ensure that these popular measures mandated by the people in the 2024 general election, can be allowed to lapse, only to serve as bargaining chips in future negotiations and fodder for disingenuous declarations in upcoming elections, all while holding taxpayers hostage to their political agenda. This is a betrayal of the American people who deserve stable tax policies, not benefits dangled only to be snatched away. Democrats' obstructionist opposition to permanent tax cuts, especially the SALT deduction and standard deduction increases, reveals a blatant disregard for public welfare. The SALT increase, a compromise to win over blue state Republicans, met fierce Democrat resistance for allegedly favoring wealthier taxpayers, yet they offered no alternatives to permanently support middle-class families in high-tax states. Most galling is their refusal to exempt Social Security benefits from taxation, forcing a temporary senior deduction as a weak substitute. Democrats hid behind budget constraints to block this reform, despite their eagerness to fund less critical, ideologically based special interest programs elsewhere. The expiration of these provisions is a tax hike in disguise. When the deductions for tips, overtime, auto loan interest, and standard increases lapse in 2028, millions will face higher tax bills. The loss of the $40,000 SALT cap in 2030 will squeeze families in high-tax states, and the Trump Accounts program will exclude children born after 2028, undermining the generational wealth-building potential. But the gravest injustice is reserved for seniors. The expiration of their $6,000 standard deduction in 2028, coupled with Congress's failure to eliminate Social Security taxes completely and permanently, will thrust retirees back into financial strain, taxing benefits they earned through decades of work. This is and should be understood as a moral, ethical, and societal outrage. Congress, especially Democrats, had the opportunity to secure these benefits permanently, but chose to play politically opportunistic chess instead. By allowing these expirations, they enable future administrations, likely their own, to let these provisions fade or demand concessions for renewal, holding taxpayers in the balance. Americans are tired and angry with these status quo games. We see through Congress's refusal to prioritize our financial security. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act's temporary provisions were couched as victories, but these victories are battle victories, not war victories. The expiration dates of these measures expose the truth. Congress values power over people. Democrats' obstruction of permanent tax relief, particularly their failure to exempt Social Security from taxes, reveals their hypocrisy, claiming to champion vulnerable populations while ensuring their benefits are fleeting. The primary fault lies with those who blocked permanency at every turn. The only way to avert this catastrophe is to make these temporary measures permanent and to codify all DOGE initiative cuts into permanent law. By enshrining the tax deductions for tips, overtime, seniors, and auto loan interest alongside the increased SALT cap and Trump account programs, Congress can deliver lasting relief. Permanently eliminating taxes on Social Security benefits would honor seniors' contributions and provide true and meaningful financial security. And codifying DOGE-driven efficiencies would ensure fiscal responsibility without burdening taxpayers. Anything less is a continuation of Congress's betrayal of the American people, leaving us vulnerable to the inevitable return of higher taxes, diminished opportunities, and a return to status quo taxing and spending with no champion to force accountability in sight. When we return, our segment on America's Third Watch, broadcast nationally from our flagship station, WGUL AM 860 and FM 93.7 in Tampa, Florida.